John D. Rockefeller is a name synonymous with wealth, business, and power. He built a vast empire through hard work and diligence. When looking at his biographies and different reference materials, I found that the man had a lot of success, but he also did have a lot of controversy as well. First thing I want to look at is, why was John D. Rockefeller successful in business? Well, this was the mid or early 1800s, and he was in high school, which was unusual at the time. And he had to work hard in his school classes, but he was naturally gifted at math. But 2 months before graduation from high school, his father encouraged him to drop out of school to go into college so he could make money for the family. So he did that. 2 months before graduation, he started a three-month business course at E.G. Folsom's Commercial College, and this was in Ohio. There he learned bookkeeping, penmanship, business law, and banking as well, definitely preparing himself for his future business. And the first job that he received was at a commission house, and a commission house was basically a firm that sold goods for commission or profit. And he didn't know at first if he really had a job that was going to be paid or if he was just an apprenticeship. But he worked really hard, and he didn't get his first paycheck until he was working there for 3 months. But he did work hard, and he learned a lot about bookkeeping and banking and business through that job at the commission house. So he decided to open his own commission house, which was focused on grain meat warehouse in particular. That too was a success for the man. So he joined with some other men and opened the Standard Oil Company. And oil was actually a very new commodity at the time, but he jumped right on board. And through that, he became one of the first billionaires in the United States. 1800s as a billionaire. So he did have success, but he also did have a lot of controversy as well. There was a lot of bad press about John D. Rockefeller, but he was a very silent and secretive man, so he never refuted the claims that were set up against him. Some may have been false, but there were some things that he definitely did that may not be considered ethical. In 1879, the Standard Oil Company owned over 90% of the oil refineries in the United States. And he would get these oil refineries through buyouts. He'd basically go to them and say, this is your numbers, this is our numbers. If you don't sell to me, you're basically going to go under. And a lot of them would sell in that way. The ones that held out, he would go into their areas and undercut their prices. So if they were selling oil for $1, he would sell it for 50 cents. And eventually they just couldn't compete, so they had to sell. So he acquired all these different oil refineries. Yep, there was also a railroad scam that never actually became to fruition, but a railroad company offered to give him a 50% kickback if he used their company only. When that got out in the press, it just added another thing that the public were like, John D. Rockefeller, he's taking everybody's companies, taking all the jobs, now he's trying to work all these railroads out of business as well. Well, by 1911, the U.S. government got involved and stated that the Standard Oil Company was a monopoly. Basically, they didn't have any competition, they just controlled the market. So the government made them divide into 7 different companies. Several of them still exist today. Exxon, Mobil, and Chevron are 3 of the more famous ones. So he had success, he had controversy, but he was also a very generous man. He was actually one of the biggest philanthropists in history. And a philanthropist is basically someone who donates money for the good of mankind. He thought that it was a God-given gift that he could make money, and surely it was. By this time in his life, he donated around $540 million to different charities, several that he set up as well. Science was a big aspect that he put money into. Research, just advance of science, and also researching cures for different diseases and things of that nature. And that opened the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, which still exists today. He also put a lot of money into churches. And if you look at the time period of the late 1800s, he was putting money into the black community as well, which was very unusual because there was still definitely segregation at that time. Also, he put money toward the black community in schools, and also just the community at large. He helped found a lot of different universities, and he thought that education was so important because it helped spread culture. It also would fight ignorance and also bring solutions to many things with poverty. By the time that John D. Rockefeller died in 1937, he was 98 years old, and his net worth in today's dollars was around $340 billion, possibly one of the wealthiest men of all time. And there's a lot of lessons that we can learn by looking at John D. Rockefeller's life, and I especially hold to him as a business major, I see the fact that education is very important. That's how he first got his foot in the door in business, and also he invested money into education later on in life. He was also very hardworking and diligent in what he was doing to make sure that it was happening. But if you look at the controversy aspect, there were some things that he did that maybe were not ethical. We have to be careful in anything in business to think, are we doing the best for the company or the best for people? Are we doing things in an ethical manner? So we can learn that lesson of his failure in that sense. Also look at the fact of how generous he was and realize that no matter what our success is, we should still be giving back to the community. In summary, there's much we can learn from businessmen like John D. Rockefeller. We need to analyze the good and the bad. And if we can just weed through all that,